So people can confuse two very different things, being frugal and living in scarcity. So frugality is a good thing. It's making smart choices, living within your means, having discipline, and honestly, it is the foundation of wealth. Meanwhile, scarcity, that's when caution hardens into fear, when you're so busy protecting what you've got that you don't enjoy it or you don't have yourself give permission to reach for more. And the funny thing is that from the outside, they can look exactly the same. Both frugal people and scarcity-minded people skip the extras, they budget, they hunt for deals. But underneath, the mindset is completely different. Like frugality creates freedom while scarcity can keep you stuck. And that's what I want to unpack with you today is how do you actually tell the difference? How do you know if your so-called good money habits are actually holding you back? So the first big idea I want to share with you is this idea that frugality builds options while scarcity can actually shrink them. So let's start with two legends from financial history. The first one is Warren Buffett. Now, despite being worth over 100 billion, he still lives in the same house that he bought in 1958. He drives old cars, and for years he was known to grab McDonald's breakfast for a few bucks before heading into the office. Now, to outsiders, that actually looked really cheap, but for Buffett, it wasn't about fear, it was strategy. By keeping his life super simple, he freed up his capital and headspace to focus on investing. So his frugality was a choice that gave him options. He could back bold deals, he could sit patiently until the right opportunities appeared. Now contrast that with Henty Green, who was known as the Witch of Wall Street. So in the late 1800s, she was the richest woman in America. But her life was ruled by scarcity. She lived in squalor, she refused to pay for medical care, and she famously let her son's leg go untreated because she didn't want to pay for a doctor, and he ended up having it amputated. Now, same surface behaviors, living cheaply, avoiding luxury, but one was strategic frugality that built freedom, and the other was scarcity that shrank life to fear and misery. So the lesson is frugality is a foundation, but scarcity is a cage. The second big idea I want to share is frugality protects you while scarcity keeps you stuck. So let's talk about two athletes. LeBron James, worth hundreds of millions, yet known for being super careful with his money. Still uses coupons, resists flashy spending compared to his peers, and people poke fun at him for being cheap. But here's the difference. LeBron's frugality doesn't stop him from expanding. He still invests aggressively in sports teams, schools, media companies. Now, his discipline creates the safety to take big, bold bets. Now, compare that to Mike Tyson, who at his peak is said to earn more than $750 million. But his relationship with money was driven by fear and chaos. So at times he hoarded cash, terrified of being taken advantage of. And at other times he blew millions on mansions and cars and even pet tigers. He avoided real investing altogether. Now within a decade, he was declared bankrupt. And both LeBron and Tyson knew what it was like to grow up with very little, but they had massive earning power, both of them. But LeBron's frugality gave him control and growth. And meanwhile, Tyson's scarcity mindset left him stuck in survival mode, even at the height of his wealth. So the lesson here is that frugality creates a safety that lets you stretch, while scarcity keeps you frozen and afraid to move. So the next big idea is that true wealth means graduating beyond stage one. So let's talk about entrepreneurs. Sara Blakely, who was the founder of Spanx, started with $5,000 in savings. She lived frugally, working out of her apartment, selling fax machines by day and sewing prototypes by night. She pinched every dollar, not out of fear, but to fund her dream. But here's the key. Once Spanx started to take off, she didn't cling to frugality. She reinvested heavily into marketing and scaling and building a team. And her willingness to move beyond stage one is why she became the youngest self-made billionaire in America. Now contrast that with Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of IKEA, was a genius entrepreneur worth billions, but his extreme penny pinching was an obsession. He reused his tea bags, he drove old cars, and he flew economy even in his later years. His frugality was so intense that many people refer to him as stingy. The paradox is that Kamprad built enormous wealth, but he lived far smaller than he needed to. Now I'm sharing this with you because you need to know there are two stages of money mastery. Stage one is containment, living within your means, avoiding bad debt, building discipline. But stage two is expansion, investing, growing, leveraging. Most people never leave stage one. They master discipline and then they stay there forever. But being good with money is just the entry ticket. Expansion is the destination. And the lesson is that frugality is an amazing launch pad, but at some point you have to evolve. So if you never graduate beyond it, you risk letting scarcity rob you of the bigger life you have already earned. So here is the real question. Are your money habits rooted in frugality, discipline, intention, and freedom, or in scarcity, which is fear, shrinking, and stuckness? These behaviors might look the same, but they are completely different. The mindset behind them will shape your future in really different ways. Frugality creates options and leads you to a future you feel good about. And on the flip side, scarcity closes them off. It makes you feel fear and it robs you of pleasure that comes with financial security. And why? The reason is because it just never feels like it's enough. So if you want to go deeper on how to spot the difference in your own life and move past scarcity into real wealth, that's exactly what I'm breaking down in my weekly newsletter. The link's in the description. You're probably not just here to play it safe. You're here to build something meaningful. Understanding the difference between scarcity and frugality can be the one thing that makes all the difference.